Well, the amendment was created as well as the first 10 amendments in 1789, September, I think, 25th, and ratified 2 years and a couple of months later. The Second Amendment is, in my opinion, one of the most important amendments, and it's the one that allows the citizens or makes it possible for them to enforce the other amendments. If there's tyranny or the government becomes oppressive, or there are foreign enemies that come to our shores, then the citizens here have an individual right to arm themselves, protect their property, their family, places of business, and to enforce the amendments that are in the Constitution and take back our government. So all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's a very important amendment. That's why I think it was created. Montana, the Second Amendment is a very important and popular amendment. Everybody here likes to have firearms. We're a very private state. I myself like to be able to own my guns and go hunt and fish and do things on my own. It gives people a sense of independence, and rural people that live in farms and ranches away from law enforcement, it gives them a way to defend themselves and their own property. You have the right to carry a weapon if you're a legal citizen, unloaded even in the city limits as long as it's visible, to protect yourself. And in Montana, this is a very important part of our lifestyle and our traditions, is owning firearms. We would be a lot like some of the other countries where weapons are prohibited or where certain kinds of weapons are prohibited. For instance, Mexico or Colombia, where the citizens are not allowed to own their own weapons, and they're at the mercy of the drug lords and the military and the government and the criminals. They just simply don't have a way to protect themselves against common criminals or common crime for the things that happen. Israel is a lot like the U.S., and anybody in Israel, a citizen, can own a weapon, and they of course have war and terrorism, but they have almost no violent crime. There are almost no rapes, robberies, murders, daily crimes like there are in the United States there, because their citizens openly carry weapons. You just simply don't rob and rape people that have Uzis on their shoulders. I think that the amendment is depending on what part of the country you live in, I think the amendment can be taken different ways. There have been a number of court cases in the last few years fighting whether it's an individual right or a right given to the citizens by the government. There's one case called Heller versus the District of Columbia a few years ago, which was sort of a landmark case that said, no, it's an individual right, and now the District of Columbia cannot prohibit law-abiding citizens from owning weapons on their own property in their homes to protect themselves. And in Chicago, New York City, they would like to just ban all weapons, and I think a lot of people who live there perceive the Second Amendment as being a right given to only armies or militias or organized militaries that are granted or okayed by the government. And in other parts of the country, Colorado, Montana, Texas, it's seen as an individual right to allow you to protect yourself against whatever might come. I think this is a very important amendment, and it's going to probably be argued for many years to come as to whether it's an individual right or a right granted by the government. However, we have to look back at even history and think about things like World War II, when the Japanese were afraid to invade continental United States because they felt like every citizen had a firearm and that they just could not overcome the citizens fighting back against them, as well as the military. We're looked upon as a nation with rights, and we have a very good constitution that is not supposed to be a living constitution. It's supposed to be a structured framework from which our government works always, and the foundation of it. And the Second Amendment is going to become more important in years to come if the government continues to be oppressive or they become oppressive, and we simply have to take our country back.